work with me, and I tell, oh, John, I'm not in your league. Not in your league, no, that's all right. But I kept running into John. Every time I go someplace, John would be there, you know? And bless his heart, he always would come up and speak to me and ask me if I was ready. Yeah. So this time I called him, and he said, yes, I'll be there. So, John, thank you so much for coming out here. John has an amazing story to share, and I don't want to mess it up, so I'm going to leave it to him. Let's welcome John Pyron. Oh, and by the way, she's passing out some papers, please. You need to fill them out if you want a chance at that drawing back there, okay? There are 2 gifts, and you don't get the chance if you don't fill that paper out and give it back to me.
So the speech that I was going to give prior to Chris coming up here, because I'm sitting there going, I'm not even going to tell that. Pales nothing to compare, but one of the things that I really resonated with your story, and I work with a lot of people all over the country. Everybody has their reasons for not doing what they should do.
That's right.
Okay? One of the things people do not realize, and it's the most simplest thing to realize ever in your life, all you got to do is look at the palm of your hand. Everybody take a look at the palm of their hand right now. You see, if you have them all, you got 5 fingers, right? On the edge of those fingers, those are your fingerprints. Now, I did a little Google search because Google is our #1 best friend these days, right? We want to know anything, we just go to Google. And I typed in, I said, okay, how many people live on planet Earth? And it came back and it said, as of today, 7.4 billion people live on planet Earth. Okay, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay? One of my mentors, his goal is to be known by 7.4 billion people. You think he's got a big goal? Okay? Here's one thing I want you to realize. Out of 7.4 billion people, you're the only one that has those fingerprints. Okay? You're the only one that has your fingerprints. You're the only one that has your fingerprints, and so forth and so forth. If we were to actually prick your finger with a needle, take a little sample of your blood, and take it down the street here to Kaiser and have it tested, it would come back that there is nobody else on this planet that has your exact DNA match. You know that? And one of the things that Chris pointed out, and really, talk about inspiring, is, you know what? Every single one of us is unique. Now that's good, and that could not be good, okay? It's good if you actually embrace it. And what I mean by embracing it, you gotta let go of the past.
That's it.
Okay? See, how many of you have heard me speak before? How many of you have not? And those are some, I got lots more customers. That is great. Okay? So for those of you that don't know, a little bit about my background is, number one, I was born at a very early age. Okay? In a small town called Dallas, Texas. Moved to a little small town called Grand Prairie, Texas. Now back in the 70s, Grand Prairie was very small. And it was completely segregated back then. Okay? On this side of the town was all light-complected people. Okay? On this side of the town was all non-light-complected people. Okay? And so that's the town I grew up in until I was 12 years old. And I'll never forget the day I was 9 years old. And back then we actually walked to school, believe it or not. I mean, it's a novel idea today, right? But back then it was safe to walk to school, okay? And I walked 2 miles one way uphill in the snow. No, I'm just kidding. But I remember walking home and I'm looking at this and it looks like it's my stepdad. Because my dad left when I was 10 months old. Okay? So I was born into a broken home. So I kind of understand that life is not a box of chocolates. Okay? But I remember seeing, that's my dad, man. And he seems to be packing his truck. Okay? Now, when you're 9 years old, you're the only boy in the home, and your dad's your hero, right? Certain things go on. I mean, this dude was like on a pedestal. Not only that, but I was short and he was 6'1". Okay, so he really was on a pedestal for me. Okay? And I get up and they come up there and go, hey, what's going on? He goes, you know what, son? Your mom and I have decided to part ways. Okay? Now, to a 9-year-old little boy, that's a problem. Okay? And I remember just that crushing feeling that came over me. It was like none. I mean, I didn't really even know how to feel, other than to cry. You know, and he departed ways, and they did not get along, and he ended up moving to California. My mom was left with 4 kids. Okay? No child support, no responsibility from my hero. Okay? Just totally abandoned his responsibilities. But this was the guy who kept telling me all life, if you get a woman pregnant, you got to take responsibility. If you anything that happens in your life, you got to take responsibility for it. But yet would not model that himself. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? It doesn't matter what you say. It only matters what you do. All of us have had people in our lives, whether they're close to us, friends, colleagues, relatives, that have said they're going to do something and then they don't do it. And the challenge there is a lot of us take that on. And we allow that to become our reality. And we get this backpack. At some point in life, we grab this backpack. Remember when you were age, my kid's 10 years old right now. Short memory, right? I mean, it can be totally ticked off of me today, and then we're best friends, like, you know. Reminded me of a couple of weeks ago, I took him down to the Legoland in Carlsbad, okay? And we're there the 3rd day. I'm out in the evening, and I'm sitting there, and they have a smoking area. I smoke a cigar. I'm sitting there, and I get a call from my son going, Dad, me and David just got in a fight because they took his best friend who was down there. And David says, I want to go home. In fact, I'm just going to go roam, and I'll be back tomorrow. This is a 10-year-old, okay? And pretty soon, my son comes to me and goes, you know what? We're not going to be friends with you. And I'm just going to walk around. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, what? Really? And so I'm thinking, no, you're not going to do that. And so they go off into the wild blue yonder, okay? 30 minutes later, what do I see? Him and David. Hey man, we're gonna give them high fives. Why? Because they have a short memory. Okay? But at some point in our life, something happens, and we go and we buy this backpack, and we start carrying it around. And every time somebody disappoints us, every time we make a mistake, every time that it doesn't quite work out the way we want it to work out, we just take it and we put it in our backpack. And pretty soon, man, you know, if you've ever, I was in the military, right? So they made us walk 26 miles with a loaded, what's called a rucksack, okay? And it was heavy, okay? That's why they kick your butt for 7 weeks prior to that march to get your body in physical shape to do that. And so what happens in life is we don't exercise our emotional muscles, okay? We don't get the guidance that we need and the training that we need to know how to deal with the emotional things that happen in our lives. And so as a result, our muscles get weak. Challenge is, the more we put in that backpack, all of a sudden, man, you're like, oh, you're walking around, it gets heavy, you know, And then no wonder we don't succeed. But then, if you're like me, one day comes in your life. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was in April of 1987. And my stepdad and mom decided to part. Now, I'll come back to that, let me back up. So 12 years old, my mom decides that they're gonna get back together, and we move to East Oakland, okay? 69th Avenue and East 14th Street in East Oakland, okay? Now, keep in mind, I'm coming from a segregated town to East Oakland. Now, fortunately for my mother, she would never raise me to be bigotry or prejudice or any of that stuff. I didn't have that going on for me. What I have going on for me is the total opposite. Is I went to Havens Court Junior High. Felix Mitchell was running the street back then. And me, and you count Italians, Chinese, anybody that's non-black, right? There were 12 of us in the entire school. Okay? Now, you talk about a culture shock. I had no reason to carry around all this crap anymore. It was about surviving. And I got my butt kicked for a solid year until I started to fight back and I understood that, you know what? We're all the same. We all have fears. We all have desires. Okay? My desire was to not get my butt kicked. Right? Okay? And I got very good at the sport called running. Right? In fact, I was so good at running that the track coach saw me one day running. and I actually joined the track team, true story. Okay? And I placed first in literally every event. You know? Because I got a lot of practice. Right? But here's the deal. I learned through that experience that life's not perfect. And you will face challenges. And I had no time to carry around all this junk in the past if I'm going to be present in my future. You can't drive forward and constantly look in the rearview mirror and not get killed. And at some point, one of the things I learned coming to an event just like this, a guy got up on stage and says, you know what, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. Who said that? Zig Ziglar, right? Okay? And he's absolutely right. And so, fast forward again. Here we are. I'm homeless. I'm standing outside in front of a trailer that's about the size of a queen size bed. In fact, if you take these two tables and put them together, that was the trailer. Heavy on drugs. I mean, every drug known to man. Never put a needle in my arm, thank God. Okay? But dropped out of high school. Okay? Nobody in my family at that point had ever graduated from high school. And I remember the feeling coming over me. It's like, this is my life. Why do I even want to live? And I'll never forget, I worked for this guy named Gary Ballard. He owned a company called Dixon Auto Supply, 38th Avenue and East 14th Street. And when I was 12 years old, my dad convinced him to let me sweep the back room. And that's how I started working when I was 12. Sweeping the back room, pretty soon, now I was actually working in the store. And his son comes, takes me and drops me off at what he thought was my house. Okay? And I forgot my jacket in the car. Okay? There's a point to the story here that I'll get to in a minute. He comes back, and I'm gone. Like, I walk down the driveway, and he doesn't see me, so he comes back, and he's like, here's your jacket. What's going on here? I go, this is where I live. Now, my parents left, both of them moved, they both have split. Mom ran off with a boyfriend, right? Dad took grandma and the two sisters, moved to Livingston, which had one stoplight in the middle of 99 back then. That was the only stoplight on 99, right? That's how you knew you were in Livingston, right? And so what happened is he goes, no, you can't live here. And here's the point. Do you know that no matter how bad your life is, there will come a time where there's one moment in time that will completely change the entire direction of your life. Had I not forgotten that jacket in that car, who knows? Who knows what would have happened? He went on to take me, and we went to an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center, okay, which they told me I couldn't go to because I had turned myself in there. And apparently when you're 17, you don't do that. Okay? So he said, you need to come back tomorrow. I'm like, no, I need a place to stay tonight, man. You know? And so I did come back, went through the 45-day program, and just God put mentor after mentor after mentor in front of my life. And I started getting told things like, you know what, John, it doesn't matter that you were poor. It doesn't matter that when you were growing up, that sometimes there were only eggs in the fridge. Sometimes there were only red beans and rice. Okay? Sometimes you would come home and the electricity would be shut off. Okay? Sometimes the landlord would come up and say, hey, your butt's getting out because the sheriff's on the way here because we evicted you a while back and your parents didn't make you out. Right? And he kept telling me, people like Jay came into my life. Gary, Dave Annie kept coming into my life and saying, hey, it doesn't matter where you've been, it only matters where you're going. And I started doing some novel things. I started reading books. Because they said, hey, if you want to be different 5 years from now, it's going to be determined by 3 things. The books you read, the people you associate with, and the content you allow to go right here. And if you don't control that, what you have right now is what you're going to have forever. And so, had I not taken that advice, I would have never heard a guy named Jim Ford give this talk, and he says, you know what? Here's how you become successful. Number 1, you forget the past. Number 2, you speak positive about everything. Because the first person to hear you speak is you. And when you speak, your conscious mind hears that, and that feeds right on into your subconscious mind, which ultimately controls your conscious mind, which controls your action. And so if you allow negative stuff to go in here, it's just going to go right through that cycle and come right out as negative. And I started taking those things out of the backpack. And one day I just said, screw the backpack, I got rid of it. And now when something happens in my life, and it'll knock me out for about 5 minutes at the most. Because I realize, you know what? I'm going to take 100% responsibility for every single thing that happens in my life. If I leave my house and I pull out of that road there and I go down and I'm at the stoplight at Whitney and Sunset, well, knock on wood because I don't want this to happen, okay? And some person rear ends my butt, whose fault is it? Most people would say it's that other person's fault. But what I've learned is, you know what? If I want to have an emotional peace, I'm going to take it. I could have left that house 2 minutes earlier. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about how you look at it. Now, I'm not going to admit to that person that was my fault, okay? Because they're going to pay. But it frees me up mentally to be me. Very rare. Once you understand that, nobody can affect you. Now, here's the how-to. I went on to I started my first business in October of 1990. It was a network marketing business. And this guy wanted me to go out and talk to perfect strangers. I mean, can you imagine that? He wanted me to go out and actually say hi to a perfect stranger. Now, how many of you own businesses in here? Okay? Now, who in here knows who Jay-Z is? Okay? Here's what Jay-Z says. I am not a businessman. Okay? I am a businessman. Okay? In other words, I am a business man. That's what he says. All of us are a business. You all have something to offer someone. Tragedy like this happens, this guy will change lives for the rest of his life. Every single one of you have a story to tell. There's people like him that will show you how to, one of the biggest joys I have today is to teach and train coaches on the business side, not how to be a coach, but on the business side of building a coaching business. Because that first business failed, man. After it was 1990, and in February 1994, my mentor at the time, Jay Kuchia, said, you know what? I can't work with you anymore. You argue for your limitations. And you know what? I'm going to let you keep them. And that's the last time we worked together. And I took that as a personal failure. And went and hid in a warehouse making $10.50 an hour for 2 years until I injured my back because God said, you know what? No, you need to own business, dude. And here's why. You know, you got a story to tell. So I hired Dave Danny and went on to build $3 million businesses from scratch, back to back. Now, I don't say that to brag, but here we got a kid that was born in a broken home, raised by some crappy parents get divorced, drops out of high school, drugs, no success at all had ever happened in this person's life, but yet goes on to end up in the center page of the Sacramento Business Journal on September 24, 2010. Because I built a business while the economy was collapsing from $0 to $1 million during the time where everybody else was falling apart. And they wanted to know why. And I said, it's very simple. The people that I put in my life. Okay? I stopped making excuses for why I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I said, you know what? I'm not figuring out crap no more. Okay? I don't have the answer. Other people have the answer, and I let my ego down and decided to listen and take instruction from people who were where I wanted to be. And so I would advise you, the one single piece of action that you take coming out of this event is you find yourself a mentor. Okay? Now, here's the rules for finding a mentor. You need to have respect for them, not influence over them. Okay? You need to really resonate with them. They need to hold you accountable and not be afraid to do it. If you're going to pay your mentor money, you need to be able to fire their butt at any time. Not, you're going to sign up for my 65-year plan and you can never get out. Oh, you can get out, you give me a 5-year notice, right? No, none of that. Okay? The most successful people, the people that you've heard speak up here, will gladly help you. And if you're a fit, great. If not, trust me, they know somebody who will be. Okay? I'm taking Chris up on his free strategy session. I'm like, heck yeah. Yeah? Because you never arrive. Now, you do arrive when you're 6 feet under. But as long as you can still move and think, we can always grow and make a difference in other people's lives. See, the speakers that came up here today, we want to hear your story. Everybody has something to offer. You know? And so, I'm about out of juice on this because Chris said it all. I mean, and he's lived it and he's proven it. It's like, myself, no one has any excuses. Okay? Now what you need is the how-to. The hardest part is the why-to. And if you take Chris up on a strategy session, you will figure out your why-to. And then Jen Barna, who just left, she's a mindset coach, and you can be on his radio show and conference, and there's all kinds of people that will help you out. Okay? So I don't have a call to action. Okay? You can simply go to johnpyron.com, and everything that people would pay me thousands of dollars for, because they do one-on-one, is up there for free. JOHNPYRON.com. Okay? If I could ever help you in any way, shape, or form, just send me I even have a little button on there called book appointment. Okay? Because it gives you access to my calendar, my live calendar, and you can book your 10 to 15 minute time with me, And the only thing I'm gonna ask you is, what's your big goal right now? I'll tell you exactly the 3 questions I'm gonna ask you. What's your big goal right now? Here's some homework for you. What is your big goal right now for this year? Number 2 question, what is your biggest, what are the key frustrations, issues, and or concerns preventing you from hitting that goal right now? And last but not least, the most magical question I've ever heard, if you had a magic wand, what would your business look like? If you had a magic wand, what would your life look like? If you had a magic wand, what would your health look like? Apply it to whatever you want. Those 3 questions, anytime you want to fire yourself up. It's like Ziglar said, man, motivation is like taking a shower, dude. If you don't do it one day, you're going to know it. Okay? If you don't do it like 2 or 3 days, people around you are going to know it. If you don't do it for a week, man, the whole world's going to know it. Okay? It's a daily thing. And I'll leave you with this. One of the biggest exercises that has changed my life, I implemented about 2.5, 3 years ago. It has, in all the years I've been in business, has been the biggest game changer. And that is the very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I get a blank sheet of paper. And I write out my top 5 goals. Whatever comes to me. Not pre-planned. It's just like I meditate, I go, whatever your beliefs, God, universe, whatever, right? What do I want in my life? And whatever comes to you, write it down. Don't argue it. How am I going to get there? Oh, I don't know. No, just write it down. Because here's what's going to happen. The magic is this. 2 weeks of consistency with that, you're going to get clear on what you really, really want. And what's going to happen is the whole universe is going to start going towards that goal. And I'll close with this. Who in here knows who Napoleon Hill is? Okay? Think and Grow Rich. I had the privilege and the opportunity to have one of his personal friends, a guy named Ben Gay III. Ben Gay lives up here in Placer. Okay? Napoleon Hill actually worked for Ben Gay III for 2 years. They worked together. They were personal friends. He agreed. Here's where it comes down to. The most successful people will make time for you. I just called him up and I said, hey, I'm looking for a guest to be on my, actually I sent him a Facebook direct message. Hey, I'm looking for somebody to be a guest on my podcast. He said, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll be there. So prior to going live, I had personal time with him. I'm like, dude, all right, come on. You were personal friends with Napoleon Hill, one of the greatest mindset books ever written, right? Like, tell me what was the secret? Because there's something missing from the book. There's got to be. What was the one thing, man, that you learned, right? It's like sitting in front of Grandpa. It's like, tell me the one secret in life, right? And I'm thinking he's going to say something all spiritual and finite. No, he says it's simply this: the ability to give yourself a clean slate every single day. And I go, dude, I've heard about that. Forget the past, be positive, expect great things. It's the same old BS, dude. Give me some how-to. And he said, it's simply this. When you wake up in the morning without a blank sheet of paper. And what I want you to do, whatever you're going after, let's just say it's money, John. Let's just say you want to earn, $1 million at 1 point, so let's make the math easy, because, $1.2 million this year. So that means you need to make $100,000 a month. So decide how many days you're going to actually work. And divide that now, that's your daily number. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down that number on the top of the sheet of paper. And then I want you to look at your calendar, and anything in that calendar that's not going to help you hit that goal, I want you to delete it or reschedule it. And then I want you to ask yourself, because you don't need another mentor, John. You have the answer. I want you to ask yourself, what can you do today to move yourself one step closer to that goal? And I want you to write those things down and put them in your calendar. And then I want you to find somebody that you're going to actually tell, this is my goal. Right? Because we'll set the goal and then we'll hide. Right? Okay, we don't want anybody to know because that makes us accountable. Right?